Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So I'm coming back to Tearlaments, and last time we did Tearlaments deck profile, I was trying a very low to the ground version of the deck where we were basically kind of playing it almost like as a Sword Soul style combo deck, which people will say quote-unquote mid-range, but I have a whole video about why I don't agree with that term. But anyway, not that it's bad or anything, I just don't think it's very well used in Yu-Gi-Oh! But anyway, that's literally its own video that I've already made. But my point is that last time I was playing Tearlaments, I was pretty convinced that milling wasn't the way to go, and that rather trying to play a consistent strategy where you opened Reinoheart or Supreme Seamare alongside the polymerization to ensure you ended on Rulkallos plus Dragostapelia was the way to do it. And while that is a safer combo line, safer in the sense that the line is more guaranteed, you don't have to rely on the randomness of milling, I will say the ceiling of what random milling does allow is higher than I gave it credit for. Because, you know, I was kind of thinking like, okay, we only have one Havnis, right? We only have the 2 Scheiren and the 1 Tearlaments Kashtira. Is that really enough to justify going all in on a mill strategy alongside the other stuff that we're already trying to mill? And it turns out the answer actually does end up being yes, surprisingly enough. Well, surprising to me, anyway. I'd kind of thought that things such as Destrudo and Jet Synchron and Fengli the Soldrapom, which totally sounds like random nonsense gibberish words you think of off the top of your head. But anyway, I kind of thought that these wouldn't be enough of an incentive to keep milling, combined with the Ishizu shufflers, which are actually not even in here. I'm only just now realizing I didn't even put them in there. Wow. But a lot of the reason I don't have the Ishizu Shufflers or the Shadal cards, which are other cards that are more incentivized to mill, is because I have elected to play a Punk engine instead. A couple of reasons I'm playing a Punk engine over I think the Shadal engine is kind of more mainline, like what most Tearlaments builds are using now, but I don't own a Winda, and I didn't particularly feel like crafting one, so that's one of the reasons I'm using the Punk engine instead. And also, you know me, going fast makes me feel alive. I can never not Synchro summon if the opportunity presents itself. Plus, speaking of Synchro monsters, I did have a new fun little toy that I wanted to try out in this deck. That's going to be F.A. Dawn Dragster. I pulled this card relatively recently out of another secret pack I was trying to pull for Firewall Dragon, and I ended up pulling this card out of one of the random slots, and this was a very good pickup. This is actually a card that's kind of been on my to craft list for a while. I think it is one of, if not the best generic level 7 Synchro we have available to us. Basically, there is a lot of text on here that deals with FA, spell and trap cards being activated. Well, not a lot. It basically just increases the level if that's the case. We're mainly here for the last effect, which says once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell, trap card, or effect, you can reduce this card's level by 2. And if you do, negate the activation. And if you do that, destroy the card. So, yeah, generic spell trap negation, never a bad thing. And the level 7 Synchro option is actually extremely easy to access. One, we have Destrudo, and basically the way Destrudo works is that Destrudo is level 7, but it will make its level equal to the difference between its current level and the level of a monster on the field. So let's say you have a random level 4 monster, right? Destrudo brings itself back and becomes a level 3 tuner. You already have the materials right there to go for a level 7 Synchro. We can also do Amin as level 3 tuner alongside one of our level 4 monsters here. But of course, Destrudo is not really only used for the Dawn Dragster. Actually, Destrudo, in my experience, is mostly used to go into the Baron. Again, targeting a level 4 monster, bring it back as level 3, and then using it in conjunction with one of your 7s here. We can also make Chaos Ruler with the 7s using one of our level 1 tuners. And because we do have a couple level 1 tuners, and we're playing Chaos Ruler anyway, I kind of feel like there's no reason not to try to make the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. I haven't made it yet, but that's not really, I don't know. You're not really trying to end on this as part of your main end board. This is very much like the ceiling of your mills, right? Like, if your mills go very, very well, then you can throw on a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss to your end board. But honestly, even if you just get average mills, you're still typically looking at something like Rulkallos plus Chaos Ruler plus usually something else, like maybe a Redoer, maybe like another Synchro like Dragster or Baron, etc., maybe another Fusion. But it's really not hard to end on a decent board, even more than decent, even a great board. Again, off of something even as simple as like average mills, like just a pretty simple like Reinoheart, like Kitkallos setup, for example. Let's see, other tech choices in the main deck. I am playing a Gamaciel. I know I've shit-talked Kaijus a lot on this channel, and I maintain that Kaijus typically aren't good in a best of one, unless you are using them for another function, or if they are particularly searchable in your build. Usually Small World, I think, is the biggest justification for playing a Kaiju. Here in this deck, though, I'm totally fine playing the Gamaciel because as I was putting the deck together, I thought to myself, you know, I would like at least like one more random Aqua monster, and I was going to put in Supreme Sea Mare, but I was looking at the list and I was like, you know, I guess we do have Underworld Goddess as a Perlerino out / Towers out in general, but I thought maybe having a random main deck one wouldn't be that bad either. And again, the Kaiju does fulfill another role in this deck, being an Aqua monster, so it's not bad if we mill it. We can just fuse with it then. That's totally fine. So, again, Kaijus, I don't really think that they're good in a best of one standalone as a function as a Kaiju, unless they have another role in your main deck, like ours does here. Otherwise, we're playing just a lot of consistency stuff. You know, the E-Teles obviously boost the Punk engine's consistency. Also make it so you don't always have to normal summon Amin. I will say the Punk and Tearlament engines, well, they do typically synergize pretty well together. The one point where they do really conflict is if you open like both Amin and Reinoheart, like, because then obviously you just kind of, well, it is a little hand dependent, but the majority of the time you'll just have to normal summon the Reinoheart, and you won't get to do your Punk line at all. So they do kind of conflict in that regard. But here's the thing too: if I wasn't playing the Punk engine, I'd just be playing like Supreme Sea Mares, which also kind of conflict with Reinoheart. Could also max out on the Tearlaments Grief. My initial list of even Punk Tearlaments did do that, but I ultimately had to cut down to one to make room for more stuff. I could see myself maybe dropping like a Foolish Burial Goods for another copy of Tearlaments Grief, and then maybe like, I don't know, you could maybe justify dropping one of the Zamines since we already played the 2 E-Tele, but we're playing 2 E-Tele in addition to 3 Zamine because we want to open Zamine, or if not Zamine, Reinoheart as often as possible. So, yeah, I don't know, I guess ultimately at the end of the day, it's kind of like up to you how you want to be. That could be like, you could do that instead of like the Gamaciel slot as like another Tearlaments Grief if you want to boost the consistency of your plays as opposed to having like the narrow out here. But overall, I very much like this build, and I got a couple, quite a few actually, pretty good games with it. So let's break the list down card by card, and then we'll see those games. We are on one Jet Synchron, one Fengli the Soldrapom. Just again, that name sounds completely made up, but okay. 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 3 Noh P.U.N.K, Amin, 1 Tearlaments Havnis, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 Tearlaments Scheiren. We got 3 Tearlaments Reinoheart, 1 Noh P.U.N.K Deer Note, 1 Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Fission, 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, 1 Gamaciel, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, 2 Noh P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Foolish Burial Goods, 1 Tearlaments Grief, 1 Primeval Planet Perlerino, 1 Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, 2 Tearlaments Scream, 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Tearlaments Heartbeat, 1 Tearlaments Metanoise, and then 1 Tearlaments Sulliek. There is our 40-card main deck. Now for the extra deck, we have 1 Tearlaments Kitkallos, 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia, 1 Tearlaments Rulkallos, 1 Tearlaments Kaliedo-Heart, 1 FA Dawn Dragster, 1 Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 number 41 Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir, 1 Time Thief Redoer, 1 Divine Arsenal, Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, and then finally 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. And that'll do it for our list. Let's go and see those games. Alright, first game we're going to see with Tearlaments here is going to be against Vanquished Soul, the popular new deck on the block. Vanquished Soul has been out for almost a week at this point at the time I'm recording this, and I think it will be a week actually at the time this is coming out. And I don't know, I think the deck is about tier 3, I think overall. about where I thought it would end up. But anyway, this is actually going to be one of those hands I was talking about in the deck profile where we end up being a bit conflicted as we open both Amin and Reinoheart. But because we opened Scream, I'm just going to go for the normal summon Reinoheart. And of course, very glad that I did, as we have the, Tearlaments Kitkallos getting milled here. We also milled a Metanoise just now, which is going to be really good. Because it means after I summon this Kitkallos, while on the same chain link, I'm also going to get to use Metanoise to wheel that Tearlaments Kitkallos back to my hand. Or, I mean, Tearlaments Kashtira. I would call her Kitkallos because she is, lore-wise, Kitkallos. They have the same attack and defense, but not quite here. So, Poe's going to try to Ash Blossom the Scheiren that I just picked up off of the Kitkallos. Going to definitely use the Call By on that. I think they definitely would have used Maxx if they had it by now, so I'm fine using Call By here. Alright, Scheiren's going to pitch Snow. We milled Destrudo, which is actually a really, really good mill. As was the Heartbeat, because then we can pick up the Metanoise again. Destrudo, I can make it level 3 because I have the level 4 monsters, and I have the level 7 Tearlaments Kashtira in hand, so can special that, get another 3 mills. Not great, but we've milled pretty much everything we need to by this point. Now I can go for the Baronne, add that to my end board. Gonna overlay the Reinoheart and Scheiren into Time Thief Renewer. Gonna activate my Kitkallos effect here to wheel the Tearlaments Kashtira back to the field, and now I get to use Kitkallos to mill 5. And look at that, I actually managed to mill Jet Synchron, so now I can sync with the Tearlaments Kashtira yet again, this time with the Jet Synchron to make the Chaos Ruler. If I can manage to hit the Fengli, I can actually summon the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss here, but if my memory serves, I don't end up hitting it. Nah, don't end up hitting it. I'll add this Foxy Tune. Obviously can't... Well, I could use it, I guess, but... Because I don't think I've used Foxy Tune? No, because I haven't used my Punk line at all. I actually could have used Foxy Tune here. Maybe I still do. I'm trying to remember. But I can also see a world where I might want to save it. I think I end up saving it. Yeah. Because I thought about sending either, like, Sulliek or Metanoise. Well, it probably would have been Sulliek, right? Discarding Sulliek, special the Foxy Tune, special Amin F to add probably just the other Foxy Tune, right? Then I could have synced the Amin the Chaos Ruler and made Pep here as well. But I thought about it, and I ultimately think I value the Sulliek actually a little bit higher here. Just the monster effect negate. I think I value that more than having a Towers on board. Just in conjunction with everything else I have, so. Alright, Redoer is going to activate during the standby phase. We'll end up pulling the Dr. Madlove, confirming that my opponent is on Vanquished Soul. It's nice to know that before they do this, this Wraitsoth for Fenrir line here, because they could have tricked me into thinking they were Kashtira. Not that it really super would have mattered, but... Anyway, Scream Mill is going to find really much of anything here. Opponent's going to roll summon the Raisin. We're going to not activate Raisin's search effects, which makes sense to not get negated and destroyed, but rather going to attempt to blow up Rulkallos and Scream. I actually probably could have let this go, but I decided to Sulliek it. But yeah, in hindsight, I think I actually definitely should have let that go. Well, but you know what? Then I wouldn't have been able to bring back the... That's right. I would have been able to bring back the Rulkallos via its own effect if I sack it off here. We're definitely going to use Metanoise to turn the Fenrir face down, so that way our stuff doesn't get banished. We do get to both negate and destroy the Jialong, which is going to be... I know I butchered that pronunciation, sorry about that. Which is going to be nice because now... yeah, our stuff is going to get banished. Oh, and we also cut our opponent off from searching, right. Now I'm going to make the Kaleido-Heart. Kaleido-Heart's going to put the Raisin back into the main deck there. They do have a small world. I'm going to let this resolve because they're going to ultimately go minus. So they actually concede in the middle of a small world. As I don't know if they revealed the wrong thing, but I think they really just more than anything realized that it didn't really matter what they small world for. Because I still haven't used the Baron negate. That's like the big thing here. I've managed to save the Baron Omni negate and destroy until the very end. And again, the small world can totally resolve because my opponent will net minus advantage, and whatever they add, I'll just negate and destroy that. At that point, my opponent's going to literally have one card left in hand, as well as the field spell and the face down Fenrir, but really, more than anything, it means they won't be able to do anything else moving forward. So, yeah, that's a pretty good Tearlaments game there. Even though we did open both the Amin and Reinoheart, our opening was still very, very good, good enough to secure the win. So let's go and see the next game here. Alright, this opponent is going to be on a Stealth Kraken deck. Stealth Kraken Control. Definitely been a hot meta since I've seen this deck. I haven't really seen this deck around much since like Totally Awesome was still around, but unfortunately for them, this is probably their deck's like absolute worst matchup is Tearlaments, so they do get to go first. So in the Maxx during the draw phase, they're going to go for the Lifeless Leaf. Wait, is that what it's called? Lifeless Leaf Fish, right? Yes. Also going for the Abyss Shark. They're just going to go for the Kraken here, it looks like, allowing me to draw 2 cards in the process. And it seems that alongside 1 face-down card is about all they've got. Even if I had Maxx, I don't know. I don't know they would have necessarily been able to do a whole lot more. Because anytime I played against Stealth Kraken, it kind of seems like I just Stealth Kraken pass, but so I didn't really talk about this much during the deck profile, but I really do like the Kashtira field spell here. It might seem a bit odd since we only have Fenrir and the Tearlaments Kashtira, but as you saw in that first game, having access to Tearlaments Kashtira is like very, very valuable. And of course Fenrir is never bad to have either. The nice thing is too is, like you saw how our opponent impermed the Fenrir there. It's really nice playing the field spell because a lot of people see the field spell as you automatically being on Kashtira. But there are actually quite a few Kashtira engines that will play the field spell just to have more access to them. So just because you see a Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, it's not guaranteed that your opponent is on Kashtira for sure. It's probably going to be more likely than not that they are, but do keep that in mind for sure. But yeah, here, I mean, we're completely off to the races. Our opponent did manage to summon the Mini Aruka, I guess is how you say that. So maybe if they had another extender, they could have made like another rank 4 here, which might have amounted to something. But at this point, like up to this point, my opponent hasn't really had any good targets to hit with the Stealth Kraken, and now I have the Dragostapelia, so now it just doesn't matter anymore, right? We did manage to mill the Fengli there, but kind of ended up having to use it to make the Chaos Ruler. So once again, we don't end up in the situation where we can hot Red Dragon very easily here, but I do get the Foxy tune for Amin, sending the Sulliek. I'll use Sulliek to add a Reinoheart in case I somehow end up needing follow-up, but I can't imagine that I will. And yeah, rather than go for another 8, well, because I don't have another 8 actually in my extra deck, I'm just going to go for the Pep here. I'll use Pep to banish the Stealth Kraken, which we'll try to activate here, but yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and use Dragostapelia. And I don't think this was actually lethal. Oh no, I have Chaos Ruler, so it is. And that's what my opponent concedes, right? They just wanted to make sure that I had lethal. Yeah, because I was looking at my board, and I was like, wait, this isn't lethal. Didn't I win this turn? But yeah, I guess both me retroactively now and my opponent in the situation probably didn't think about Chaos Ruler coming back there. But yeah, another pretty easy line to lethal here with Tearlaments, although that does tend to be something that Tearlaments is, I think, very well known for at this point. But we still have a couple more games to see. Let's go into the next one here. Alright, so this duel is going to be against Hero, and I think my opponent's a pretty diehard Hero fan, because a lot of their deck is Royal. Like, pretty much every Super is Royal, and it looks like they're working on their Ultras, too. So, props to them. But anyway, we're going to be taking the first move here, although even if we got second, we have Maxx, so we probably still would have been fine, but this time we will be doing some punk things here at the start. We got Amin going for the Foxy tune. Foxy tune gets to send off the Snow to summon the, what is it called? Deer Note from deck. Now we get to sync for the Chaos Ruler. Deer Note F. I'll target the Amin. I don't know if I'm going to make Pep just yet, but Zombie Vampire is something I have considered putting in the extra deck to see if I can get more mills, but I don't know. I don't know that necessarily. I think I'd take out Baguska. I think I was going to put in Zombie Vamp, which I could see myself doing. I just like the idea of having the Baguska in case we need to pivot into a brief play under like a Maxx or something, but alright, I managed to mill the Tearlaments Kashtira, which in turn manages to mill the Scheiren, so that will be enough to get us into our Tearlaments plays. But we did have the Grief, even if we didn't get our mills set up here. Actually, I'm not even going to end up using the Grief, because I get to just straight up mill the Kitkallos off of Reinoheart, or mill the Reinoheart off of Kitkallos effect, and then use the Reinoheart effect right then and there. So I considered making Pep or like trying to go for something else here, but ultimately I was like, you know, I got this Dawn Dragster, I might as well try it out, right? Plus, I've already got Monster Effect Negate and Special Summon Negate, might as well have some Spell Trap Negate to round it out, right? I'm going to fire off the Maxx during the opponent's draw phase. They will Ash Blossom. I'm going to Call by the Ash Blossom here to make sure my Maxx resolves. Between my opponent's name, icon, board, base, and mate, I was pretty confident they were actually going to be on hero here, but... And sure enough... Oh, they're going to Call by first. Call by on the Fairy Tale Snow here. I will just go ahead and chain it. I thought in the moment this was probably to force out a triple attack, which I think it does actually end up being that's why they're doing this here. Because, like, why else would you randomly Call by Snow, like, without waiting for it to activate first? But we have the Dawn Dragster. I actually thought my opponent was going to have Thrust as well as Talent, because they so readily activated their talents, but they actually don't end up having Thrust here. When the Vion is normal summoned, I'm going to go ahead and use Sulliek's effect here to negate that. That's going to be enough to get my opponent to concede. I figured the Sulliek was a fine negate point, or the Vion, rather, was a fine negate point because it's the opponent's normal summon. They only have a couple of cards left in hand, and even if they did have another extender or something, we can just use Rulkallos. I don't think we actually end up using Rulkallos' effect in any of that, did we? No. Nope, we did not. But yeah, this goes to show how useful Dawn Dragster can be. I really like having a Spell Trap Negate in addition, because, like, as you can see, this board is, or this deck in general is already pretty good about setting up a board with, like, Special Summon Negation and Monster Effect Negation. But sometimes those Spell and Trap cards can really come in, and especially the triple attack cards with Talent and Thrust. So, yeah, having the ability to out those, I think, was, obviously, because our opponent had Talent, ended up being very, very good here. Anyway, we have one more duel to show. Let's go straight into that. And our final game is going to be against Branded Despia, the other big fusion deck. It's funny, back just a few months ago, it was pretty clear that Tearlament was the better fusion deck, but now I think Branded Despia is arguably the better fusion deck between the two. We'll see, but anyway. Going to Maxx during the draw phase here. But that Maxx is not going to matter a whole lot because my opponent's kind of the luckiest player in the world here and opened like their two really, really good one-ofs in Branded Lost and Fusion. So, and then of course we draw Ash Blossom as the 6th card. Right on time Ash Blossom, but nah, it's all good. Alright, so Lost is going to end up adding the Albion here. Tragedy looks like it's going to grab the Alubur, and then the Lubellion will fuse itself with the Albaz, of course, to make none other than Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. And we'll get a draw off of that here, too. Alubur is going to try to activate, but I'm going to go ahead and use the Ash Blossom. I really don't need my opponent to have, like, Branded in Red or Branded Banishment? Is that the Super Poly Trap card? Whatever it's called. I don't want them to have it, so I would really rather they not. To my surprise, they actually give me another draw here and summon the Ecclesia, but I guess they want the ability to make, like, Granganol or Kratos or something on my turn, so, anyway, I'm going to start by activating Perlerino here. I actually have quite a few things I could have started with, but I decided to begin with the Perlerino. But it's going to chain both the Retribution to wheel back the Branded Fusion, as well as the Cartesia effect. Looks like we are fusing with the Alubur in order to make the Granganol here. Very pretty Royal Granganol as well. I end up adding the Tearlaments Kashtira here, which might seem a little bit weird. Like, you'd think, oh, wouldn't you want to add Reinoheart, one of the fusers? But actually 3 reasons I don't want to. 1, I have Foolish Royal Goods to send to Sulliek. 2, I have Tearlaments Grief to get, you know, whatever is needed. Sorry, I got the hiccups coming on here. Excuse me. And then 3, I have both Amin and Destrudo in my hand, so I'd like to be able to make Baronne ideally sooner rather than later here. But the other problem is I don't think that's going to be able to happen, really, just because of this Mirror Jade here, right? Opponent is going to Mercury the Scheiren effect, which I kind of expected, but it's still a little annoying. So here I'm going to I'm going to special summon Tearlaments Kashtira first by banishing the Sulliek. Gotta get my mill 6, because I would really still like to make the Baron here if possible. They're gonna fire off the Granganol here. I thought they were gonna go for Proskinia, but they do actually have the Koratus, which is very awkward because now I can't really out the Koratus without having to also deal with the Albaz it'll summon as well. But anyway, normal summoning is Amin. This will finally get my opponent to use the Mirror Jade, but thankfully we do still have the Tearlaments Grief here. I can use Grief to not only summon Reinoheart, but then also send the Tear Kashtira, which will get me a couple more mills, but this Imperm, it's like, oh my god. This is one of those games where it feels like if my opponent had had one less thing at really a couple of different points here, like one less disruption, then I maybe could have gotten away with winning this duel here. I am still going to end up building the Havnis here, which is pretty lucky for me, so I do still get to summon the Kitkallos, but yeah, I'm gonna use Koratus here just to force it. Like, it's gonna end up being a factor at some point, right? So I figure I might as well get it out of the way now. Gonna send a Scheiren from the deck to the yard. Koratus is gonna summon, but I think they actually summon an Alibur, not an Alba. Yeah, they summoned Alibur here instead, which maybe the last card in hand was, and no, we know that's Brain Diffusion, so it's not an Albaz. But anyway, yeah, I get to use Kaleido-Heart to put back the Mirror Jade, and it's like I came so close to actually breaking this board, but yeah, I think ultimately my opponent just has too much advantage here. We know they already have Brain Diffusion. They just searched Branded in red. They get their Artesia back, and they also get the Albion Search here as well. That's just too much. It's too much to be able to push through. Oh, and they get the Titaniclad effect as well. But we were close. I will say that much. We were very, very close to being able to push through everything our opponent had, but yeah, I'm going to throw the rest of this in fast forward because the rest of this is just going to be my opponent building their board until they're able to find lethal and push through for it. Yeah, here's the Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade's going to banish, of course, my Kaleido-Heart. Albion's going to summon itself, and then now they get to move to Battle Phase, and yeah, I'm just going to concede. But it was still a very close game. I think it really did come down to like 1 point of disruption. Maybe if our opponent had had one less, we would have managed to like eke out a victory there. But in any case, thank you everybody for watching these games. Hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Let us now move to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.